Hey, sis, and welcome to another episode of the Balanced Woman podcast. I'm your host, Jess Lyles, and today we are speaking with Kelsey Nelson. Kelsey is a trailblazing sports media professional who has covered events like the Super Bowl, the NBA, and the WNBA finals. She's an award-winning journalist, radio personality, and Fox Sports contributor. She is literally thriving in an industry where Black women are often underrepresented. But her impact does not stop there. She teaches at Georgetown and she mentors up and coming leaders and leads initiatives that advocate for education, diversity, and mentorship. Today's conversation is all about taking risk and going after bigger opportunities. And I want y'all to lean in because I know so many of us have dreams, aspirations, and goals that at times feel unattainable. And because they feel unattainable, you guys have been sitting on all the goodness that you could be putting out into the world, or you're sitting on it because you're tired. It's not that you don't want it, but you don't have the energy to go out and get it. This episode is going to be your reminder that you don't have to have it figured all out in order to make that bold move. So today you're going to hear from Kelsey about what it's like to push past that doubt, redefine success on your terms, and say yes to bigger. Kelsey, welcome to the podcast. Me down. Hey, Kelsey again, and welcome to the show. I just want to take a few minutes for you to give what I like to say is your elevator pitch. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, what you do now, where your passions lie, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, I will start with where I'm from because that's what made me. I am born and bred in the DMV area. That's DC, Maryland, and Virginia for folks who don't know. I'm currently based in Washington, DC, our illustrious nation's capital. And I do a little bit of everything. I feel like I'm one of those people you can't put in a box. So I have multiple titles, Jessica. I wear different hats throughout the week. I'm a professor at George Washington University, actually this school year. Talking about the legacy that I want to leave, I launched the first ever Introduction to Sports Writing and Reporting course there. So in the second semester of that course, super excited. So if I ever look tired on a Tuesday and Thursday, you know why? Because it's a top that 8 a.m. class. I leave it I leave it energized and motivated. But sometimes it's hard to obviously get those early mornings, but absolutely love the school year. I also work as the director of communications for an amazing nonprofit called Mentor. And the big work that most people know me for is my work as a sports journalist in Washington, D.C. I do television broadcasting and radio. So a lot of people see me doing collegiate sports right now. I just finished my first season as American University women's basketball color commentator. Also finished my first season as an Atlantic 10 studio host. I work with Fox Sports Radio and Fox Sports. So until most folks get to see me, I cover all DC teams. I do National NFL and NBA. And then one of the other big hats that I wear is I am an entrepreneur. So I have two businesses here and based in the DC area, but they're national businesses. One called Encryption, where I have my own media communications consulting company, work with people telling their story, branding themselves, all that good stuff. And then I have Listen In with KNN, which is my podcast and radio network that's partnered with Fox Sports Radio. I have 3 internships between those 2 programs, and so just a little bit busy, Jessica, throughout the week. So that's kind of KNN in a snippet.
I love that. I love how well rounded you are, first and
Oh,
foremost,
thank you
but
so
you're
much.
also, and I've seen you mention this a bit, like I told you, I snoop a little bit, but I think you're hitting the nail on the head when you say that you're actively in a career, but also just your entrepreneurship journey is very
Yeah.
unique, especially for
Yeah.
Black women.
Thank you.
So you're definitely a trendsetter, definitely like open up the gate. So I so appreciate you having you here because I'm going to pick your
Yeah.
brain.
Oh, look, I love it. Let's do it.
So, of course, this podcast is for busy women, right? Overwhelmed, trying to manage it all, trying to find balance. And
Yeah.
so, who better to ask of insight and tips and strategies, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of the women that I encounter, whether it's in therapy or coaching, that fall into that bucket,
Right.
often have those deep dreams that they
Mm.
want to pursue,
Yeah.
but kind of fall by the wayside, either because of stigma, because we don't see us in the room, or because we don't have the time.
Mm.
Can you walk us through how you not only found the time to do these things, but also
I
how you got into those rooms. And I want you to speak more so from the aspect of like the mindset, because I think
Yeah.
sometimes we are approached with the opportunity, but we don't really know how to accept it or how to take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you started start with the mindset. So I'll tell you kind of my mindset going to into everything. I tell everybody like I've been an underdog, Jessica, my entire life,
Mm,
which means my mindset has always been that I've had to work for stuff, right? Nothing has ever been offered to me. So hard work has honestly been ingrained, in me since I could talk. My parents put it in. You want something, you need to make it happen. I think also my mindset is driven by my fear. One of the best things I read when I was growing up was what happens to a dream deferred. That's my biggest fear. What happens if I don't follow my dreams? And so it means I'm always chasing my dreams because I don't want to know the other outcome if I don't. I think the other mindset thing is I love freedom, Jessica. I love being able to balance and do so many things. But in order to do that, that means I need to own everything I do. So I tell people like I do a lot of things, but I do a lot of things well because
yeah.
it's very so much quality over quantity. I have the quantity, but the quality is why I'm able to do the quantity. So I want to make sure that's understood. But I think also folks need to know that there is a calm in my chaos. I've never had just one job, so I don't even know what it is to have just one job. So again, just going back to the mindset piece, but again, it goes back to the underdog mindset because I've always had to prove myself. I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing as women, especially as Black women, it's so important not just for your own mindset, but to have a good mindset of folks around you. So I always tell people like I know a
Mm,
lot of people, but my circle is small, Jessica. That means like the people around me, like they truly do know me and they're feeding in positive energy into all I do. And that doesn't mean I don't want to hear negativity or people like saying things, right? Because I'm not perfect. There's a
right.
lot of things I can improve. I'm a lifelong learner. But it does mean that I have so much and life is already stress in itself. I can't kind of have additional stressors, right? So I think I have to limit that. So it means I protect my mindset, I protect my peace. I always say I give myself grace and space in all that I do. But that also means, again, that the people around me also have to be feeding positive energy because I'm a high energy person, if folks can't tell. And so for me to remain high energy, I just need positive folks around me. So I think it also means just I've had to learn how to limit folks access to me,
Ooh.
direct access. So I am sometimes a bad texter. Not intentionally, but it's because again, I have to like, put myself kind of in these different spaces and really
Yeah.
respond to what's needy and important. I'm someone that has like 8 emails, right? I'm responding to emails at times, and then I do it all myself, just like I'm a team of one. I have
Mhm.
internship programs, I have great PR people that have come and helped before, but primarily it's on me. So I think again the
Mm,
mindset is, what can you do, what will you do? But again, for me, it's what will happen if I don't do it. That really is what drives me. But I think what I've had to learn also is that it's okay to give myself again that grace and
mm.
space. Because I think when you're so busy trying to be superwoman, sometimes you can forget to be in the moment. And I've had to learn that because my mind just gets always on to the next thing. Okay, this is great, but like what's the next thing? But thanks to the people around me, I've learned, like take onus of the space I'm in. Live in this moment. This moment is never going to happen. Me and you having this initial moment is never going to happen again. Take advantage. I think at those different opportunities, and then also you have to learn the power in your mindset, the power of knowing what's of value to you. I think that's probably the space I'm in right now. So that means not saying yes to everything. Like
Yeah.
for instance, I get asked on a lot of podcasts, and I love podcasts. I love talking to people, but also in terms of value, I have to think about what value will this add. I love helping young people. I try to do it, but I have to space them out because if I'm doing podcasts every single night, I can't work. I can't
Hmm.
grade the 16 papers I need to grade every Tuesday and Thursday, right? I
Exactly.
can't do all the other things I need to do. I can't work with my clients for my businesses. So I think that's the other thing, like knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to based on your season. Remember giving yourself a reason. So giving yourself that space to have grace. So I think the mindset part starts, but that journey will start for you. Like I said, for
Hmm.
me, the underdog mentality, I always tell people I can't teach you work ethic. Anybody that works with me, I say I can't teach you work ethic and I can't teach you passion. Those are two things you're going to have to bring to the table, right? Because I can't give that to you. I think I can be the biggest motivator and biggest cheerleader, but if you don't want to do it or you want to be here, I can't help you with that,
Yeah, I can't do
right?
it for you.
So, but those two things, and so I think that's the other thing, like making sure those are things that people who work with me, those are things that they have to have. And I think the other thing, I have two non-negotiables in every relationship in my life, and that's trust and respect in terms of
Mm,
mindset. So anybody around me, I have to trust you, you have to trust me, and then we have to respect each other. And again,
yeah.
that's any relationship. That's my students, my clients, my family, whoever it is. The trust and respect are the non-negotiables. I think also establishing clear non-negotiables are going to be key for anybody. I think to be able to balance, right, and
Yeah.
do multiple things, and again, do multiple things well.
And you called out a few key things, and I feel like I
Yeah,
have one question that kept popping up in my mind as you were
yeah,
saying all this was like, how? How did you find what your bandwidth was in regards to, like, you know what I mean, the task and the
Yeah.
opportunities and the business ventures and things like that you could take on?
Yeah.
And you mentioned something very powerful about knowing what season you're in and knowing when to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
How do you know that? How do you
Oh
know
my
when to give
gosh.
yourself grace?
Yeah. I think in terms of your bandwidth, again, this is going to be something that everyone is going to be different on.
Right.
For me, it's always the O word if I keep getting opportunities, right? So for me, for broadcast work, I know I'm going to be if I'm taking on too much, I feel like that's going to be when I stop getting asked to do broadcast work, right? The freelance work won't come,
Yeah.
but like right now, it's like really good, right? I'm in a good space in my freelance work because each opportunity is kind of building on each other. And again, kind of going back to the mindset, having that underdog mentality, I really do treat everything like an audition. To me, Jessica, nothing is guaranteed. Each and every day I'm going into any of my workspaces, it's an audition to remain there, to stay there, to up my place there. And that's kind of, again, just the mentality that I have. I think the other thing in terms of bandwidth is measuring, honestly, your happiness. Like, yes, I work a lot, but Jessica, I have a smile on my face. Like I'm the person that like
Yeah.
it's hard to get me, and ask any photographer that's ever worked with me, it's hard to get me to just do a straight like mean face. I can't do that. Like naturally, I'm high energy. I'm a smiler. So I feel like when my happiness or joy goes away, and I'm very into my season of Black girl joy, and I'm loving for Black men too, being in their season of Black boy joy. When that joy goes away, Jessica, I think that's when I have to dial back. Like for me, I love getting a call one on one with my clients. Like I love it. I'm motivated by it. I'm making the agendas. We're talking through strategy. Like I leave those calls energized. I can't wait to do the recap emails. Even my emails, I get a lot of emails, but they're always great opportunities. So I make that space for that. I walk into my class, right? I built the curriculum. I get feedback from students. I'm energized by that. But I think when I lose my joy for a piece of work, and honestly, the jobs that I've left, why I've left them is the joy left me, Jessica. And so I knew I had to remove myself from that space, and I knew God was telling me to walk in a different purpose and a different direction. So I know joy might seem hard to follow, and I also
Yeah.
understand that people do have different barriers, right? Like especially right now, let's be honest, we're living in a world where finances are a big thing for folks, right? I'm in Washington D.C. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people directly impacted, right, by a lot of these decisions that are coming up from the administration, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's also reality for folks. Like, what are you able to bend and to do? But this is also kind of why I've enjoyed having flexibility in different projects and jobs because it allows me in that flexibility to not just rely on one thing solely. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, especially being an entrepreneur in DC. It's like never just rely on one thing solely. It's okay to have different things. But I think that joy being there is important. Again, I think just knowing you. I think the biggest thing that you can do and the best thing you can give yourself is to know you. So like for me, again, what keeps me up at night is the things I didn't do in the day. So that means I wake up again, just kind of energized, like, okay, I didn't do that yesterday, but I'm going to make sure I do it today. Other
Yeah.
people might be like, Kelsey, you're crazy. Like, let it go. It didn't happen. Like, on to the next thing. But for me, like, once I start something, I have to finish it. I just do. Once I start it, I have to finish it. And once I say yes, I have to give 150%. But like I said, when you lose that joy, when you lose that passion, when you lose that motivation, I think that's kind of when you have to learn, like, okay, look, I might need to pivot. And pivoting in life, I think, is part of your growth. It's important. And knowing how to pivot might be your most important tool. And so I think that's kind of when I've learned how to step away from things. One of the things I had to do this year was I was on a couple of boards. I kept saying yes to boards. And I enjoyed them because I love giving back. But it ended up being, Jessica, I had no time for me. And so one of the things that I give myself every day is I give myself an hour where it's just Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's an hour for me. So whether it's me taking a walk, going to the gym, watching a Netflix show because I'm way behind on too many shows, whatever that is, I give myself that hour. And then I started to see like I was so busy, I couldn't even give myself an hour in a day. And I was like, okay, this is becoming too much. Like I can't even give myself an hour, like in a 24-hour day cycle. And so that's when I had to
Yeah.
kind of step back and realign my priorities. I think that's the other thing I do. Each month I kind of just look at everything I'm doing. And again, I just make sure how does it match my priorities? What's the match? What's the mesh? How does it tie back into my passion? But I think in terms of bandwidth, like I said, I would say whatever brings you joy should be what you're, feeding into. And again, notice I said joy. Joy doesn't always mean it's going to be bringing a lot of income or money, right? There are things that I do, there are boards that I sit on. They don't bring me necessarily gratitude in terms of financial income, but it's
Right.
gratitude in terms of the purpose that I'm fulfilling, the people that I'm serving, the impact that I'm making. Again, going back to my mindset, I'm driven by legacy. I'm driven by what can I leave here on this earth once I'm dead and gone? Like what's going to still be here after me? And so that's kind of, I think, what's driving me to know my bandwidth. Like everything I'm doing, I want to be known as a woman who had her own businesses, successful businesses, built this, and then my legacy. I want to be able to leave these on, right? I'm not just building this to be up in a, for a couple of years and then burn to the ground. No,
Right.
this is for something that I want to leave, whether it be for my sister, maybe future children, whoever that is, right? I want that to be there. So, yep, just I would say measure your joy. You have to know your purpose. And then one thing I always say, use your purpose, use your platform for a purpose fueled by your passions. So whatever I use my platform, all the things that I'm doing fuel my purpose, right? And it's energized by my passions. Those are my 3 Ps. And so everything kind of has to fit into that, Jessica. So hopefully that answered that in terms of the bandwidth. Has to be purpose, has to be part of my platform, or either part of my purpose or my passions. And that's kind of how I'm weighing, the yeses and nos with all that I have currently going on.
That resonated so much with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm that person in my friends, in my friend group. But
Yeah.
also to your point as well, you mentioned this earlier though about like the folks that you surround yourself with.
Yes.
Because I am fortunate now that individuals I surround myself with, they're like, be you, do it,
Oh,
like
I love
go
that.
in. But it
Yep.
wasn't always that way, to your point, and it was
Yeah.
like, and it caused like some self doubt or some like caused me to second guess what I was doing, even though I felt like it was my purpose. But I'm like, whoa, it is a lot. It is a lot of balls I'm juggling. In
Right.
my mind, they align, but not everybody could see your path. Not everybody could see
Right.
why you're choosing to do what you're doing, and it
Yep.
was hard to either set boundaries or cut back on relationships or
Yep.
adjust where your focus was, because sometimes we
Yeah.
can't even focus on certain people while you're on
Mm.
your journey. I'm
Yeah.
curious though, because I
Yeah.
know I've experienced it quite recently.
Yeah.
But I took a vacation, so I'm better now.
Nice.
But the burnout that sometimes comes with those things, right? Like, it sounds like you have a good handle on it now because you were able to identify, like, whoa, like it's
Yeah.
been one occurrence or maybe just a few occurrences and I need to pull back. But has
Yeah.
there been a time where you did experience burnout from either one ball you were juggling or multiple balls,
Gosh.
especially now that you're juggling?
Yes.
And how'd you
Yes.
navigate that?
Yes, burnout is a natural part of life. And I'm a person, that's why people are always scared. They're like, Kelsey, I'm so scared you're gonna burn out. And like I love and my parents are like, especially my mom. My mom is always like, Kelsey, like, I want you to dial it back. I don't want you to burn out.
Hmm.
And that's natural. People should care about you, right? I think for me what happens is my body has a natural response. No joke, Jessica, whenever my body feels burnt out, I get sick. I get sick.
Mm,
I like literally get physically sick.
yeah,
And so what happens, of course, when you get sick is it forces your body to do what? To heal. It forces you to sleep and recover.
that's
And so I
right.
feel like that's kind of like, because everybody, it's so funny. Like I'll be like, how did you catch a cold? I'm like, I haven't been outside. Right? It's my body being like, all right, Kelsey, it's time for
That's
you to
it.
like pipe down
Yeah.
and relax. And so I think the burnout, again, because my mind's always, I feel guilty though, I will tell you. And that's what killed, like, for burnout, for me, it's like, I feel like I'm not delivering. Like my biggest
Ah,
thing is my word. I come from a Southern family, so like your word is
hmm.
everything, right? So
Yeah.
like if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I don't care if I'm staying up like for my interns, if I'm writing a recommendation letter, I will stay up till 4 a.m. in the morning to get that done for you. If I told you I'll have it done, right? Like it's just
Mm,
super important to me. But I think what I've realized is that, you also are only as good as you can offer, right? I work in journalism communications. Like the sleep is important, not just for me to be able to read lines, right? To write strong, to look okay on camera, right? Because people can tell when you
right.
need some sleep or you're tired, right? That's part of the brand that I'm offering, but it allows me to be my best self. And so I think what I've realized that hour a day is important. But honestly, since 2025, one of my New Year's goals that I've done is to get more sleep. Like
Mm,
before this year, I was good like with 4 hours. Like I was fine.
yeah.
This year, like I'm like, no, I need to get like 5, 6. Again, I had to up that ante because I'm trying to be my best self, right? And I can't just rely on my coffee and sodas, to kind of wake back up. And so I think with the burnout, like I said, no, it's natural, but for me, it's always how are you going to come out of it? Like
Mm,
burnout is a natural part of life, but again, you have people you need to answer to, right? You have people counting on you. So for me, it's always like, how can I get out of this? So I look at every part of life as the adversity is kind of part of the journey, part of the struggle. But at the end of the day, again, how people, unfortunately, honestly, Jessica, the quote I'm looking on the back of my computer, it's from Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens quarterback, and it says, "Nobody cares, work harder." I
mm.
purposely have that as my background on the computer.
That's
Now, this
good.
might be like uncontrary to people's belief. Like, obviously, I care about mental health. Obviously,
Yes.
you need to care about yourself. But at the end of the day, people want results. People want
Hmm.
facts. So I think what I've had to balance is balancing my own personal needs and their needs. But what I've realized is when people really do, when you've built a strong brand, Jessica, people again will give you that grace in that space.
Yeah.
Like literally, people will reach out to me like, "Hey, Kelsey, I just want to check in on you. Not even on the I want to check in on you. How are you doing? I know you're balancing so much." And so what I've realized is when you've built a strong brand, your customers know they can trust you. It's
Mhm.
okay to be a little bit late on things, Jessica. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like they'll give you that because they know they just know you, right? They know
Yeah.
you,
They know your
you know
value.
your values. They know
Yeah.
your values and stuff. And that's so, so important. So I think what people kind of have to realize is how do you brand yourself? How do people know you? You know, we started the show with the elevator pitch, and I think
Yeah.
that's layer one. The second layer of that to me, I think, is what are your values? How will people describe you? What's important to you? And I think that's what I'm really proud of. That's kind of how I've been able to brand myself in my hometown area of the DMV because these folks have known me, Jessica, they knew me through college, they knew me through grad school, they've known me through now my 10 plus years of my career. They
Hmm.
know they know me well. And so I feel like they know what they're going to get. And so again, I feel like I kind of have that grace and space, but
Yeah.
also they know like Kelsey is going to do whatever she can to deliver. But yeah, the burnout is a natural part. You don't want it to happen too much. And so I've changed my physical. I've tried to do more working out. I've put a whole bunch of vitamins in my, I had to change that physical part because again, I realized my body was
Yeah.
having a physical reaction, which meant I needed to tend to my physical. Mine was fine, right? Like all that was fine, but my physical was what was like begging for some attention. And so I think that was important, having more talks with my doctors, actually utilizing my healthcare, right, that you pay for as much as you can. But yeah, I think the burnout is scary for folks because it's like people always talk about it and like, oh my gosh, you're going to burn out. And I feel like when people hear that, Jessica, they think it means the end, like you're going to crash and burn
Yeah.
and never come back. I think it's the opposite. I think it's just you're going to slow down a little bit, but you're still going to be able to race back to the start and get back to that end line
Hmm.
of the goals. I think once I kind of had that mindset and once I know people know me, I know not everything is like straight personal, right?
Right.
It's just, again, it's just part of the business. So I think that's been helpful. So hopefully that was answering your question. But yeah, the burnout will come. It's just, I think it's how do you respond to it? But no, you do need to let your body go through that process. Like nobody can be high energy 150% of the time. Naturally, your body's going to have to slow down because we're human and we're only getting older each day. It's just part of
Yeah.
the life. It's just part of life's journey.
No, you definitely answered the question, and I love what you called out in regards to like, hey, burnout is actually normal because you're finding balances depending on the season you're in
Yeah.
life, yet again, right? So it's going to adjust and you're going to consistently be adjusting, but it's
Right.
being flexible in that while still keeping your intentions pure on what your priorities and your values are.
Exactly.
And one thing
Exactly.
you called out that I feel like I've been preaching so much this year is
Yeah.
use your health insurance. Like, go to your
Yes.
doctors, get your
Yes.
things.
We pay
Like,
too much.
yes. I'm
Use
like,
it.
I went this year and got a whole new diagnosis, which is what I thought it was. I'm like, I need some more letters behind my name. But
Yeah.
it was exactly because of what you said. I was like, I'm going to do everything. I mean, dermatologist and all, went to it
Yeah.
all. But
Nice.
in doing so, now I have shifted the way I'm managing
Mm.
my physical health, managing my mental health to actually like satisfy
Good.
what my body needs. And so my priorities
Nice.
shifted. And so to
Yep.
your point, giving grace in those certain areas in the ways I worked out or in the ways I showed up for
Nice.
myself physically.
Nice.
But this
Yeah.
is something I struggle with. So I'm actually curious in your insight or your thoughts about this
Yeah.
is knowing that maybe I burnt out, right? And everybody gave me grace because
Right.
I have, like, when I deliver, I deliver. And I show up
Yep.
and people know me as
Yep.
that person. But that guilt is still gnawing at me, even when the
Yeah.
burnout is over, even when you show
Yeah.
back up, even when you're back, on your routine and you're like, okay, I've resolved the problem. I know now that I need more sleep, right?
Right.
Like, how do I navigate coming back and like giving, I call it the little bully, giving the little bully a kick in the butt to go back off to the side so I can actually focus on what I'm doing, so I can show up.
Yeah. I love this question. And again, I think for me, like my mind is always on that finish line, Jessica.
Yeah.
Like the prize. Like my mind is always on the prize. I've had that underdog mentality. I know what I've wanted. And for me, nothing is going to impede that. And so I
Mm.
think that's why I think your mindset is so important to what drives you. I loved poetry growing up. I still do. That's why I said, what happens to that dream deferred? And so for me,
Yeah.
it's you can have that moment. Like for me, for instance, like sometimes I have those moments. Like I told my parents the other day about this award I was getting, and like I'm not an emotional person, but like I literally like let some emotions out, Jessica. Like I was emotional, I was crying, like, and I think my body just needed it again because
Yeah.
I'm doing so many things and doing so much stuff. And going back to your point, I think it was the guilt sometimes of being like, no one sees all this work I do with it.
Mm.
They see
Hmm.
the fun, they see the joy, they see the
Yeah.
fun, But like, I'm like, no one sees the grind work. And like, I
Yeah.
was like, no one appreciates this. And sometimes I feel that way. Like, people love what they see on social, but they don't like appreciate like the long hours, right? The not so
Mhm.
sexy parts,
Yeah.
of the job. And so I think that's why my body was reacting. But I think the guilt part is natural. But again, are you going to let that guilt sit and fester? Because while you're doing that, someone else is going to go chase after your dream. Again, this is my
Mm.
mindset. My parents will tell you I came out the womb competitive. Like this, my mindset has always been like, and I know this is not everybody, but for me,
Yeah.
like sitting and feeling sorry for myself is going to do absolutely, nothing. A quote that lives like rent free in my head is Malcolm X. The most disrespected, unprotected person in America is who? It's the black woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? Nothing has been offered, nothing has been handed, everything has been earned. And so for me, I'm continuing my ancestors' journey. For me, the struggles, the things that I'm going through was nothing compared to what those before me had to bore, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
just carrying that baton, still trying to get to the finish line, facing all the adversity. And I will say too, as a woman of faith, Jessica, I feel like, God will make sure what's meant for you is meant for you, but also every
Yes.
obstacle is a learning lesson. So kind of, I played sports. I do sports. You fall, you get back up, and you got to finish. Like
Yeah.
you just got to finish. And so I think for me, the guilt, I wouldn't say the guilt weighs on me so much. Like I said, it's more so like just me delivering for people. But I just feel like I have this one life to live, and my yearning to accomplish my dreams, Jessica, I think outweighs anything else. Like I live for this. Like I love this, and so anything else that happens, like it can't mess up the here because
Yeah.
I've wanted this since I was like 3 years old. I always told people like I don't place me in a box. Like I used to hate on career days when people wanted you to say one word answer for
Mm.
what you wanted to be. Why? Why do we expect kids to say one word answers? Why can't they be multiple things? Life is a
Mm.
journey, right? So all those different things. I think all that is still in me, right? I still have
Yeah.
that same mindset. I just obviously have a different level that I'm performing at, right? Because I'm much older now. So yeah, I think as a black woman, again, I think you just have to have that mindset. I know it's a lot to carry that strong black woman mindset, but again, just think about the
Mhm.
strong woman that came before you. And I'm reminded every day, not just in my family, but again, just being in Washington, D.C. I mean, I'm surrounded by, I always say black excellence, black
Yeah.
greatness, like all the time. And so I think for me, instead of having guilt, like I'm inspired by these women who continue to accomplish. And so I'm one of those people, like when I see others achieve, like it inspires me to want to achieve. And so again, I think it's a mindset shift. I think this all goes back to how you structure your brain,
Yeah.
how you structure your brain. If you don't structure your brain right, I do think you can get back. But this is also not to say it's okay to also give yourself again that grace and space. Some people do need longer. Some people need longer to heal. Some people need longer to recover, and
That's
that's
right.
fine. And that's completely fine. But I think the other side of life is just knowing that unfortunately, like society won't always be so gracious. Again, especially
That's
for
right.
women that look like us. And so I think I balance those two things. And usually, like I said, I think about my grandmother when I was young and all she would do to just support. I think about what my parents did, to support. So just like I think I carry the weight of unfinished business that our forefathers, our
Mm.
ancestors started. And so for me, I can't drop that because they fought too hard. So I honestly don't think I give myself enough time to really sit with guilt, Jessica, because I'm like, the Nipsey Hussle, the marathon has to continue.
Yeah.
It needs to be finished.
No, I really like this because it gave me insight as to why the guilt lingers. I don't have a prettier way of saying it. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is like a twofold. It's like a lack of
Yeah.
representation
Mm,
with what I do
right.
professionally and like those
Right.
individuals that look like me that are on that higher level. Because since they
Yeah.
don't, it's like when we show up in their room, we really, have to
We
show
show
up,
up. We show
right?
up. Yeah.
And so it does kind of fall into that strong black woman narrative in that, on the flip side of that, I should also be strong enough to take a day off so I don't have to take an unscheduled day off and,
I love
and,
that.
right?
Yes, use your PTO days,
Right.
please.
Got better about that now. But like people get stuck at that and still on the back end be worried about, oh my gosh, like I had to take off work because start my burnout cycle again, right?
Yeah.
It was something
Yeah.
that I just still haven't addressed. And so I thought that was really good and that stood out to me, the fact
I
that
love that you said
though
that
I
though.
don't have as much representation, I'm also the
Yeah.
representation. And so,
And that's kind of
right,
the weight. That's what I think.
right.
Right? Like, how am I going to leave this door open? But I think what you said is great. Like, so even just going back to like my own standards, like every job I've ever had every year, the one non-negotiable, I'm always taking my birthday off. Like, you will never see me work a day on my
I
birthday.
love
Like,
that.
so July 17th, hit me up, please, because I will not be working on my birthday. Like, it's just, and that's just like like, that's something I practice, that's something I preach.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like that was the day like God brought you into this world. Like, that's for you. That's again
I
my
know
own
that's right.
journey. But and then just going to the PTO days too, it's like, especially because I've switched jobs. I've learned the business. You learn about can't take PTO days, and sometimes they only add up so much when you leave a job. So it's like you might as well use them
Yep.
essentially. So again, this happened through life. So if I am a person that monitors that, and but I will say too, again, just going back to like what I do, I will say too, I've had great companies that I work with, like companies that encourage you to like, take those PTO days, and to use them and reinforce that. I think it's been a societal shift, which I'm glad about because it wasn't
Yeah.
always that way, right? Because when I first came out of school, it was like, no, you don't take off. You work every day and you like work your way up. Where now it's like, I think I'm in a space where like, no, like you work hard, you do all you need to do, but like, no, use your days. Like it's okay.
Exactly.
Just communicate it to your team, so people
Mhm.
know and like just be prepared. But like, long as you do your work and you have a team that, again, going back to my trust and respect, as long as you have a team that trusts and respects you to do your job and they're going to do what they need to do, like things will be fine. And so I think it is like a mind shift set that happens kind of through life, as you get older.
Ooh, that was good. That's good. And you're so right too, because you made me think about like the fact that we do promote that, and even myself as a manager, I'm like, take your time off. Why do you have so
No.
many hours? And I think back, I'm like, I was that person too, so I feel a little hypocritical, but
Yep,
still,
yep. And
it
I
was a
shifted
good,
like that. I did not, when
right.
you talked to me when I first came out of college, we'd have a whole different conversation. So I'd be like, I
Hmm.
just don't want to take off. But like I said, now it's just, it's a whole, but I'm glad society has shifted to that. And of course, the remote work thing, I think also has shifted our mindsets, right?
Yes.
Because I think, remote work and someone who is at home right now when I've been working, it can be hard too sometimes, right? To kind of have that separation between like off time and
Hmm.
work time, right? Because
Yep.
it's all happening in one space. But that's why that hour for me is so important to give myself because that's when I know I'm not
Yes.
working. It's just Kelsey time. And again, no one has that access to me because during work time, so many people have access to me, right? Phones
Hmm.
ringing, your Teams is going off, your Zoom is going off, your emails are going like everybody has access.
Yep.
During that time, it's no one. So I think also just knowing you have to have clear separation between your work time and your off time, I think
Yeah.
is really good. Those boundaries, my non-negotiables, but you also have to set those boundaries.
Man. Ooh, ooh, this is good. I'm sitting over here like, oh yes, I need to take my birthday off this year. Like, what's happening over
Please,
here?
look, celebrate your birthdays.
Right. I don't like, I think you get to a point where you like stop having birthday parties and you're just like, oh, whatever.
But even just relax, right? You don't have a whole like
Exactly.
that's even me. Like I think last year I went to like a hibachi place, like, but it was so relaxing. Like I was there,
Yes.
like into the spa, like just things that I really don't get to do, and it was just so
Right.
nice to do it. And people, I feel like your coworkers and like people that work with you will really like they want you to. Everybody loves you on your birthday. Like everybody loves everybody on their birthday. They want you to be enjoying yourself. They don't want you to be there. So I think too, just like
Exactly.
knowing your mindset can shift. Like it's okay, and people genuinely like will support you in this decision instead of always thinking like the negative, which I think a lot of us have built up again just because the work culture of this country, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of what we were taught early on.
That's awesome. Ooh, Kelsey. Okay, I've stolen so much of your time, but I have to end it in my little signature way.
Yeah.
What is one key takeaway you would love for the listeners to really take from this episode? And also, of course, where can we find you? How can we follow you? How can we make
Yeah.
sure we're keeping up with what's next? Because you have
Yeah,
a lot
I
of people
love
share that
this.
way.
I would say what I want people to take is own your power. Own your power. I think something I have learned, since graduating school is I have immense power, meaning I know my value in rooms, I know my value in spaces, and I own that, right? And I kind of start to demand that, meaning like again, like there's certain things like on my non-negotiables that I just won't. So I think own your power, own yourself. I think that would be the biggest thing, and whatever that looks like for you, the rooms you're in. And this again gives you the grace to say yes to spaces
Yeah.
and no to spaces because you're owning your power and know where you're meant to be and knowing where you're valued. I think is the biggest thing. Where to find me? Again, I love connecting with people. My website is simple. It's kelseynicolenelson.com, just my full name. On social media, The Real K Nelson, and then Facebook, LinkedIn, just Kelsey Nicole Nelson. This was so fun, and I think these conversations are so needed and
Yes.
necessary. That's why I was so excited to join you because again, I don't believe in being a gatekeeper. I believe so much of this to be so important just being shared and like I learn when I hear these things and other people can learn when I hear these things. So I think especially like creating a space. And I think just for Black women, like no, we see you and like you're doing your thing, girl.
Yes.
Like keep at it. Like it's gonna come for you. And I'm just inspired by just all the greatness that I'm continue to be surrounded by. And just so glad we had a chance and opportunity to connect and meet.
I am as well. Thank you so much again for coming on. Like I said, this is, I like to
Oh,
call it a baby pod, but we're gradually growing. So we'll
yes.
definitely have you back on, especially as I
Awesome. Thank
continue to learn and
you.
grow in this space.
Yeah.
But I'll obviously make sure that all your links are dropped below so everyone can
So
easily
much.
follow you and catch up with you and figure out what's going on next with you.
Thank you so much. So great to meet you, Jessica, and so great to
Nice
meet
to
all the
meet you.
listeners and viewers. Thanks, everyone.
Wow. What an episode, you guys. Kelsey came in and dropped gems and let us all know that we need to be taking the risk today to go after exactly what we need to and how to get there, even though we're all super busy, juggling a lot, having multiple responsibilities. Is still doable, sis. So, to every woman listening, I need you to stop downplaying your worth. Stop waiting until it feels safe because the life you want is on the other side of that bold yes. And remember, balance is not something you find, it's something you create. Until next time.